Hi everyone, welcome to Table for Two. I'm Onezie.
And I'm the Elusive Bigfoot.
Today we're discussing our games that begin with the letter C. We're kind of going through the alphabet this year, and we're discussing games that we've owned or currently own or have owned, and we are discussing games that are not expansion versions of the game,
Right.
but are the actual base game version of the game. We'll do expansions in another video. And we're also keeping letters together. So games that are different versions of the same game,
Different versions. Gotcha.
different
Yeah.
versions of the same game, like all the different fluxes are just going to be under F.
If we use flux.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to use flux. All the different versions of villainous will be under villainous and so forth. But today we're discussing the letter C. And while I'm...
All right. So you want me to go first?
Yeah, you go first while I'm consulting my memory here.
All right. So one of my games is, I'm going to go with The Crew. So
that's on my list too.
Well, there you go. There are two different versions of The Crew, and I love The Crew because it is a trick-taking game, and it plays actually surprisingly well for two players. You have a neutral character, which I don't tend to like too much, but in this case, it's Jarvis. And whoever holds a special card will be managing Jarvis. So it's like whoever has that special card will be having, two turns, but it's still a co-op trick-taking game. So you really want to work together to figure out how can we have this neutral character win this round if that's necessary, or maybe the goal of that particular trick is to only play pink cards. So there's two different versions. There's one from Deep Space Nine, or Deep Space Nine?
Not Deep Space Nine.
Space Nine.
No.
Planet Nine?
No,
Nine Space?
Just one. There's one that's in space and there's one that's deep sea.
Yeah. So the one that's in outer space, I feel walks you through, if you've never done trick-taking games, a little bit better than the one that's in the ocean. So, but I mean, both are great. They're one of our special go-tos. Like if we're, we have 20 minutes, we could play a game or not. We'll just take it and we kind of mark where we are, which goals we've already done or where we are in the book. And we've gone through all of it several times. So I really like this.
Yeah, I really like it too, that it's not just a trick-taking game where you're trying to get as many tricks as possible. Sometimes you want to avoid taking tricks altogether, or fewer tricks than another person, or take tricks in a certain order. It adds a little extra layer of challenge to it, other than just a normal trick-taking game.
Yeah.
The Crew.
The Crew.
The Crew. All right, another one on my list is going to be Chrononauts.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So Chrononauts is a card game. And it's basically time traveling back in history so that you can change events in history. What happened if the great earthquake of such and such a year never happened? What if the Civil War never happened?
What if someone didn't shoot Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah. So we played different characters and with different goals. And so it's kind of a race to see who can alter history in a way that satisfies their character first.
Yeah.
Right. So you're drawing cards, you're playing cards to change history. You're learning a little bit about history as you go by laying out the timeline, and it's just very fun.
Yeah, we have two different versions of this. Like I said, we're grouping them together. One of them is regular history, and another one is actually Star Trek.
Of course.
So it's great. I mean, it's just what if? It's just the what if situation. Good call.
I just want to point out here that no matter what a game is, you can make it at least as good or better by having a Star Trek version of this game.
I am not in disagreement. So. All right, my next game is Cubitos.
That's next on my list too.
Is it? It is a dice drafting or a dice building. It's a dice building game, and it's a push your luck game as well. So what you do is you have these cubes, these dice. You roll those, and then based on what you roll, you can just stop and take the points and the movements that you have, or you can push your luck and roll again, until you either choose to stop or you bust out and you don't have the required um, faces on the dice so that you can keep rolling. And then you'll just have to start all the way over. But then once you've finished that, you can buy better dice and more dice. So you may start out with 7 dice, and by the end, you could end up with 15 dice, in your pool, and you're picking which ones you want to start with to move forward.
I like that it's basically a race game. You're
Mm-hmm.
racing around a track to see who can get to the
Yeah.
end first. But instead of just rolling a die to see how far you can get on your turn, you're kind of choosing which dice you get to use, and they have special abilities depending on what you choose to get.
Yeah.
And it just makes it more fun and more interesting.
Right, right. Okay.
So, Cubitos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're climbing up the list here. Next on my list is Cat in the Box.
Believe it or not, that's not on my list.
It's not on your list.
No, not this
Oh
time.
my gosh.
There's a lot of C games that we have, so.
So Cat in the Box is a trick-taking game. That's 2 trick-taking games in this video. With Cat in the Box as an extra added dimension in that it's based on the philosophy of Schrodinger's cat. So none of the cards have suits on them or colors on them. And they just have numbers. So when you play a card with a number on it, you declare this is the green 5, or this is the blue 5, or this is the yellow 5, right? And then you put a little cube in a slot on the board that shows somebody has observed the blue 5, right?
Because there can only be one in the deck.
Right.
And you don't know what it is, just like Schrodinger's cat. You don't know what it is until you see it.
Right. So you just kind of make it up what color you want it to be, what suit you want it to be, until you can't anymore because your choices are too limited.
Right. Like if I have a 5 in my hand and all the 5s have already been declared, I can't possibly have one of the colors that's already missing. So at that point, it becomes a paradox.
Yep, which ends the round. But yeah, Cat in the Box is just another intellectual twist on basic trick taking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I like about this game is at some point, I can choose to say, I don't have a blue 2. Even though it's a 2 and the blue is available, I could play it as a blue 2, but the higher the number in a suit, you can take that particular trick. And there is an advantage of taking tricks. So I might say, I have no more blues, in which case on my card, I will remove the ability to play any more blues. I don't have any more blue cards. There's no more blues. So instead, I'm taking this out and I can no longer play blue. So now I have to it's got to either be green, red, yellow. It's got to be one of those. And there's still a trump suit, a suit that no matter what, if you play that card, you won the trick unless you have the higher number of that same suit. So it's a simple game to understand, but it is a very thoughtful game. There's a lot of depth to it. Okay.
All right. So
should I go to my next?
I only have one more on my list.
I have 2.
Okay, so
no, 3. I have 3.
Okay, why don't you do a couple of them then?
I will.
Because we doubled up on some of them.
So my next one is Calico. So Calico is a pattern making game where you have a board and you have certain goals on there, and you're choosing from a market of 3 different tiles that have a pattern and a color on it. Each tile has a pattern and a color, and you're going to strategically put it somewhere on your board, and then based on if you have a certain number of those same, then you can either get a colorful button, which are worth 3, I think it's worth 3 points, or a cat, which could be worth extra points, or you could be meeting a goal that will be counted at the end. And so you're just taking turns playing. The game is pretty simple, but really, really fun. So Calico is on my list. And then another one that we hadn't talked about yet is Century Spice Road. Century Spice Road is a wonderful game where you are trying to trade up in your spices up to a different level to gain points, or to buy certain abilities, or to buy a card with a certain recipe to gain a bunch of points. But the one that I particularly like, I will say it's not even a version of this. It's a different game made by the same line, which is, I think it's called Eastern Wonders, where you're sailing a ship to different ports within the board. So, one thing I like about Century Spice Road or Century Games is they've got 3 different games that you can play on its own, or you can mix it with one of the other games and it becomes a different game.
Plus, the boxes look nice when you put them all together on the
Yeah,
shelf. They fit together like one
they make one picture.
artwork.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Century Spice Road is one of my favorite games,
Mhm.
and I just love the cards, and the resources are very simple. They're just cubes,
Mhm.
and you're basically just collecting resources and then spending resources to buy cards. The cards help you get more cards and more resources.
Or you might want to trade
Yeah,
down and get more resource, less I mean, there's just
yeah,
different things you can do.
yeah, and it also has a mechanic of once you spend a card, you know, you can't use it again until
Mhm.
you take one of your turns to collect all those cards back.
Right? You either play a
Yeah,
card or you collect all your cards back.
yeah,
Those are your options.
yeah. Right.
Right.
So was that
I
all of
have
it?
one more to go,
Okay.
my number one.
So I'll just say, since we're still on Century Spice Road,
Mhm.
that was my number one game
Okay.
for the RC
Mhm.
RC category.
Why do you like it so much?
Ah, gosh, I love it that it's so simple, and I'm a big fan of the designer
Mhm.
in that I opened the box of this game to learn
Mhm.
how to play it, and there's one sheet. It's a double-sided sheet, so
Mhm.
maybe it's kind of complicated, but it's like a 5 by 8 sheet that has all the rules on it, and
Mhm.
that's it. They're very simple, very straightforward. No skipping back and forth between pages. No having to get out the rule book multiple times to figure stuff out.
Mhm.
It's very simple and very elegant and well done.
Nice.
Well done, sir.
Well done. All right, my number one game is a game that we've mentioned on some of our top fives, and it is Court of the Dead: Mourner's Call. Court of the Dead is produced by Sideshow Collectibles. It is their realm. Sideshow Collectibles makes a lot of bus and maquettes. You would see these at Comic Con or a convention such as that. And they created this story of the Court of the Dead, which are different deities. And right now there is a competition between heaven and hell. They're trying to take over, but nobody wants anybody to know because bad things will happen and they'll try to stop them. So you play as one of the faction of either bone, spirit, or flesh. And you have different goals to achieve. And so it is at first a deck drafting game where you take a card, pass the rest, and then everyone else just keeps passing you a card. And then once you have all your cards, you'll take turns playing a card, which will either give you a miniature that you can put onto the board, or maybe you take um, the souls, or maybe you take money. The game will end when all the money is gone, then you count who has the most points. And you're spending different amounts of powers and spirits back and forth just to see, what abilities you can do. But the artwork is just amazing. And so when I bring this game out, it always takes us a while the first time because people are just like in awe of the art that's on there because it's Sideshow Collectible.
Yeah, the idea of the game basically is that you're trying to gain favor
Mm-hmm.
with different factions in the afterlife,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want to rush too heavy on one or the other because it'll throw things out of balance.
Yeah, and people will know, and
So
they're trying to stop you
he's
from taking over.
trying to do it in secret, so
Mm-hmm.
it's very underhanded.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be subtle about making your alliances in the underworld.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So,
That's our games that begin with C,
mm-hmm.
and we look forward to talking with you. What are your favorite games that begin with the letter C? And until next time, I'm the Elusive Bigfoot.
You are?
I can be.
I thought I was. That makes me onesie.
Until next time.